Not everyone needs to be a slayer of aliens, dragons, and Nazis. Sometimes you just want a decent job and to be able to pee whenever you want. The mega popular Sims series has been letting gamers live out their mundane fantasies for almost 2 decades now. Go to work, get a relationship, adopt a pet, build your dream home or torture dungeon, go on vacation, eat, play, shower, pee. The Pursuit of Happiness is a strategy board game for the non-bathroom parts of The Sims. In it, you simply want to live the best life possible. Land that high-salary music producer gig, date beautiful Claire or hunky Corey, buy a video game console, or join a Sudoku tournament. Do very normal things and try to live as happy and stress-free a life as possible. Here's how to play. These hourglass tokens represent time spent in pursuit of happiness. On your turn, you're going to take your hourglass token and put it on an action on this side of the board. Maybe you'll decide to take up a project, which allows you to grab a card from this row. You might start a role-playing game, take up some healthy eating and eat a bunch of salad. Maybe you'll decide to spend some money. This will allow you to pick up an item, such as a whiskey collection, or maybe you'll go visit the aquarium. Some activities, though, require more than just time. You might need to spend some money, influence, creativity, or knowledge. But this is all for the long-term growth and happiness. If you were to take up this bonsai tree growing, then you'll increase your creativity. If you work out, you'll be able to decrease stress. When you pick up a job, you'll increase your income. Then you can take those experiences and take up more ambitious projects and buy more luxurious goods. Maybe even start that family you've been talking about. After everybody has spent their hourglass tokens, then we move the round marker up, which signifies aging for all players, and then we collect our tokens and start a new round of life. In the Pursuit of Happiness, you start off as a teenager, but will eventually die of old age. No one can avoid that fate, but will you look back and be proud of your achievements, or will you be filled with regret? And did the Going Analog reviewers regret their time with this game? Let's see what they think.
All right, guys, we just finished playing The Pursuit of Happiness, which we talked about in the intro to the video, that it reminds us of The Sims. And so, Michael, actually, you discovered this game at Gen Con. Well, maybe not in the world, but amongst our friends, right?
I'm the first.
And you
It was all mine. That's all my idea.
Yeah, you and I started talking about this game. We're like, oh, it reminds us of The Sims. And then you
Yes.
had an idea to bring Grant here, who is you're the producer on the video game franchise The Sims for Electronic
How
Arts.
about that?
And a board game designer as well.
Indeed.
How about that?
Yeah, it's like you've designed Cry Havoc,
Synergy.
Solstice.
Which is
so-
like right there.
Handshakes.
Yeah, yeah. A few games in my collection you designed. So thanks for coming here today. And Stephanie, similarly to Grant here, you are also a board game designer. You've co-designed Flocks and Flyaways with your boyfriend Matt, who's been on the show before. And you also work in the video games business at Capcom in PR. Thanks for coming. So let's talk about what we like about this game, whether as it relates to The Sims or not, just in general. What do you guys think about the game? So Grant, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. I think the game makes sense from that thematic I'm living my life perspective. I get a job, I get married, there's things that I go and do, and I think it really hits those points very cleanly.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, so for me, what I really liked about the game was it made me realize that in some aspects of my life is pretty horrible. Because I'm going through these things and I'm like, man, I could be like sitting on the beach, I can be going on vacation, I can be having a relationship, having kids. Why am I not doing these things? But what I think is really great about it is it allows you to think about how you're enjoying your own life and what things you can do for yourself in the future to enjoy your life even better.
Mm-hmm. And Stephanie, what do you think?
That's true. I mean, a lot of the comparisons to The Sims make sense here because you find yourself, the first time you play The Sims, you may make the ideal you, and you're going to get the best job and a great husband and make plenty of babies and still have plenty of time to never die or hopefully never drown in your pool. But the second time you play, it's easier to kind of have some more fun with it. So I felt like exactly how I played The Sims.
Yeah, it's like, for me, I think it's all about same reason we like The Sims, right? Where you're playing a fantasy life, but that's very grounded in reality. I think that's what I love most about this game is like, and when we played, like earlier I told you guys, make sure you read the cards and talk about what you're doing, because instead of just like, I'm going to do this and pay this resource to get this card and be done with it, it's kind of fun to say like, you know, I'm going to start dating, because we convinced you to start dating Dan. It's my first name, right?
Yeah.
So everyone thought that was going to be cute if you would start
Didn't
dating.
take a lot of convincing.
I mean, here's Dan for everyone to see. And I mean, granted, Dan is pretty attractive, but I will say that you are more attractive than Dan here.
But the
Okay.
relationship felt really natural because all it took was time to invest and automatically.
It's true. It's great, yeah. So what was so great about dating you, Dan, was that I just had to give you some time, and you gave me 3 coins.
Yeah, so it's a good return on your investment.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, but there's
Bought
cool,
your love.
Exactly.
so there's cool things like, right, we talk about getting a job, and the game progresses through your years. You start as a teenager, you do your adult life, and then you end up with old age. And spoiler, everyone dies in the game. That's how the game ends, is when all the players die. So you will die. It's just how happy of a life did you live getting there. So like you started a board game collection.
I did.
You were making fun of him for being a poet because he was going to write
as
poetry.
was
Which
my right.
I started my poetry on toilet paper, by the way, which was free.
Yeah, so there's all these cool stories that develop from playing a game, and every time I've played it, I think that's a lot of the fun. It's like everyone telling their little stories from. So anything else you guys want to add?
I think something from a mechanical perspective, the game had a lot of choices. There was a lot of different options. Like it seemed to have different branching paths. Like you could focus a bit more on one thing versus another. So you could be really activity focused, or you could like really focus on your job and getting the promotions. And I could also imagine there might be a path where you could be a serial dater and just bounce between lots of different suitors. So I think that was interesting.
And thematically, I think the game does a good job of like if you want to have many different relationships, it's going to cause you more stress. So you're going to pay for it somehow, right? Like, so the game's very good about things like you can't have multiple jobs. If you want to get a promotion, you have to follow a certain path. If you want to relax, you can reduce the stress. So just thematically, I think it works really well on all levels.
Yeah, I tried to have it all in this time that we played together. I was a full-time dentist. I married the bunk from The Wire, who was very charming, and tried to have kids, but I was getting older, a little too old, and then it killed me. And I didn't, just like real life, you don't get to reap the benefits when you die. You immediately, it's abrupt, you don't get any of the upkeep rewards, and it hurts.
You sound like you're about to cry.
Very sad.
So at the end of the game, you planned for this because you're watching for the old age and how much stress it adds. You two died unexpectedly. And then the first thing was, you were like,
I mean,
you all, especially Stephanie, she was like,
this time.
oh, I didn't get to do this. I didn't get to do this. And I'm like, I made a joke about, you died of old age, and you
That's so
immediately
sad.
look back at your life at what didn't you do and what you wish you accomplished. So now in real life, you can take those lessons.
I've
and
learned a lot. I've tried
Yeah.
to do way too much too fast, and it was just not possible.
And I learned that it's good to watch your neighbors so you know exactly when they're going to die.
Yeah, smart.
What I didn't like about the game is kind of both a plus and a negative. I really like the storytelling aspect of the game, and it outweighs my negative, which is that there's no actual player interaction. I tend to be unattracted to games that have no player interaction, kind of like Race to the Galaxy, which is a structurally really good game, but the lack of like anything to tell the other players kind of takes away.
Well, there
for me.
is player interaction
Only in
you
the
can
storytelling.
can do some group projects where you
Yeah.
can interact together.
True.
Which
And
today didn't happen a
Which-
lot.
which
Did
we
you
I
actually
had one or two come up.
we only had 1 or 2 come up and we didn't do
Yeah.
them. But what's cool about them is I played this game twice, by the way. So
Yeah.
we did do a group project the first time we played, and it's interesting because when you
And group projects are things like, we're going to go start a magazine together.
Exactly.
Of which we did in the
We
past,
did,
which
we
was
did.
because we did that in real life.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, I think I started the magazine, and I'm like, I'm going to be the CEO this time. And so what's cool about it, though, is like when you do a group project, you decide whether or not you want to help out that person, but you're looking at all of the benefits you get, and you're thinking, well, I kind of don't want to help you out, but I kind of want those benefits too. So it's kind of like this idea of, do I spend my turn to benefit this person, but also benefit everybody?
True.
And eventually we all came in and we all get all the benefits, so it worked for everybody.
But it didn't come up that often, right?
Yeah,
To
that was kind
Stephanie's
of a.
point.
That's true. It didn't come up.
A bummer for me is that the last time I played it came up too. I've also played this once before, but maybe once in the whole
Yeah.
game. So it's a cool mechanic that doesn't come up a lot.
I want to springboard off Stephanie a little bit, and I think that the game just completely lacks tension. Typically in a worker placement game, like I want to go first, so I can place my worker there and I get to do a thing that then you can't, or it's more difficult for you to do. And even though you could see multiple colors here, that's actually not the case here. There's no limit on the number of people who can use a space. These replenish immediately. These, honestly, once you get a partner and once you get a job, there's not a ton of incentives to bounce between them. I think there might be a path to explore otherwise, but so that almost meant that these actions were gone at that point. And I just didn't, and honestly, after like round 2 or 3, I never had a shortage of resources in any way. So I rarely even used these interactions because I got resources from these. And so for me, there just wasn't a lot of tension and stickiness in the decisions that I was making. I feel like a lot of the cards are just a pool of varying numbers. It almost just feels like a tuning.
It's on you.
It's like a tuning exercise that they then put like theme on top of.
So that's my biggest complaint about the game is there are a lot of these kind of board games where you're trading one type of resource for another, and it's like, well, like, do I want money to buy knowledge, or do I want knowledge to lead me to money? And it's sort of like, it doesn't feel like I have a clear direction. Like, this is the path to victory. You're just kind of, I'm doing a little bit of everything. And then like, sometimes I'm going to get knowledge or creativity. Sometimes I'm going to get money. Sometimes I'm going to pay that stuff back. And it all mixes together. It feels like, free to play games where like you could spend real money to buy this type of money, which can buy crystals, and then you can earn crystals and all these kind of complex currency systems. But it's, again, I feel like because the theme is so strong, I worry less. I'm kind of almost giving it a pass. It's not the best designed game mechanically, but the themes are so cool that I'm willing to look past that, I think.
One thing I think it's important to note is that while the core of the game is pretty simple, you place a worker, you get an output, I think something worth noting is that the game is kind of broad and has a lot of tiny rules here and there, and I think the phase structure is not super intuitive. We actually mess that up throughout the game, and I think that either it's important to note that this will require a learning game, or some folks it may be tough for some folks to learn or really grasp. There's a lot of pieces.
Yeah, I've had to read the rule book several times. I totally agree, because there's sometimes like you can start a project on level 1, but jobs you don't have to start at level 1.
Right.
Items you could buy at any level. So there's like these small nuances that are not clear in the cards themselves, and you just have to remember. And I remember when I taught you guys today, or remind you guys played before. You played before, but I had to remind you guys like, for this, there are exceptions on different cards that seem kind of unnecessary.
Which is funny, because if you look at this board and you look at the theming, you would think it's like, oh, it's so simple. You just get a job, you get a relationship, you do this, you do that. And then you're like, wait, it's a short-term job, so can I do this from the start? Can I buy it all the way? I don't know. Does it take short-term happiness? Does it stress?
And it takes a lot of time then and pulls you out for a second. The first time I played this game, one of the people I played with was someone who doesn't play a lot of board games. They play a lot of video games, but so I thought they'd be able to learn it. It was also my first time. They got into it, but I think the game took a lot longer because of all the nuanced rules, and I think he was a little frazzled at times because there's just a lot of little bits to manage and remember to do your upkeep. With every card you have, you may have your wife requires you to pay in to keep her happy, and your job requires you to pay in your time so that
and
you
I had
get
to keep my board game collection clean.
You do. You have to hire a maid,
just
so
like
she
Shu
keeps it
does.
clean. So every turn, like there may be several cards that you have to pay in to upkeep, and it's a lot to remember, I think, for somebody who doesn't play a lot of board games.
The game, and because of that, I think the game goes on longer than anticipated. Today's actually is one of the shorter
faster,
sessions, but that one time you played
It was several hours.
Yeah, several hours.
That was the first time. None of us had played though, so we were learning together.
The last time I played, I played before, but with several people. It took at least 2 hours, and for this type of game and how colorful and kind of light-hearted it is, you don't feel like you should be sitting for more than 2 hours, but it can be that long. So now we're going to get to the conclusions, and I think we finally found a format. Every episode we keep changing this, but I think I'm settled onto this. So we're going to give our final words. Everyone roll this.
Giant purple die.
And then roll. This is how many words you're going to get for your final thoughts.
Yes.
19.
15.
16.
So, I got 17.
Do we have to use
Oh,
exactly?
these are all
Use my
high.
whole heart.
Yeah. All right, we are back. I'm gonna go first because I had the most number of words.
Did you?
At 19. We all rolled really, really high.
19.
This would have been a good D&D thing.
Jeez.
This is
All right.
the best D&D battle.
Hope I don't
So,
fall asleep.
19. Really great theme, lighthearted, a lot of fun stories to tell, maybe too long, too many nuanced rules. I forgot to tell you, you don't have to write complete sentences.
Wow,
for this
that's
thing.
a lot of
You sound like a
information.
caveman.
I know.
I included all prepositions. And...
All right,
Nice.
Stephanie, you're next
Nice.
with 17 words.
Okay, I had 17 and I put limited interaction, storytelling's the heart of the fun, live your not so wildest fantasies, marry the bunk.
All right, then Michael with 16.
Okay, I said, a relationship with Dan isn't so bad. Where's my money? Ha ha! Just kidding. This game is fun.
That was the most useful one yet.
All right, I had 15. Neat theme, but lack of compelling decisions and complexity limit appeal. I prefer Portal's Legacy
You also went full sentence.
because I'm not a caveman.
Portal's
It's very
Legacy?
advanced Twitter.
Portal has a game called Legacy: Testament of Duke de Cressy, which
Okay.
is also about building a family, but that one's in 18th century France.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But it has a
Or-
very
yeah.
similar
You don't get to.
vibe and
You don't get
appeal.
to
I don't
be
get
a
to
gold
date.
digger.
I don't get
dating
to
guys
date
like
you.
Dan.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or a
so
grandma.
now let's do our final voting. So, if you love the game, give it 2 thumbs up. If you
Okay.
like the game, give it 1 thumbs up. If you dislike the game, give it a thumbs down. And if we unanimously love it, it gets a Going Analog award, which has not happened yet.
Oh.
So what is it then?
Huh? No, we'll see. All right, everyone ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3.
One thumb, and I
You
bought it
disliked
already.
All right, bottom. You made some good points. So I think this is our first dislike on the show.
Oh.
Yeah, that's your
That guy.
Grant
Okay.
has opinions, guys.
So thank you guys very much for your time. We appreciate it, and we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Seanbaby, and we are no longer doing Ask Seanbaby, mainly because of my contempt for my fellow man and their questions. So now we're doing what we're calling Bad Game Bonanza Burritos, where I take terrible games and I review them for you. Today we're working on We Girls Can Do Anything game. It's a Barbie game. Travel the path that leads to the career of your dreams. That's the subtitle of the Barbie We Girls Can Do Anything game. Let me read the whole thing again. Barbie We Girls Can Do Anything game. Travel the path that leads to the career of your dreams. Now, I got this at the Goodwill for 99 cents, and it did not come with instructions. Luckily, it seems pretty self-explanatory. It comes with a little spinner wheel. Let me hold this up. It's the We Girls Can Do Anything game spinner. You spin it. You get 1 through 5, and then you move around the board. Now, this game was made in 1986, where girls were not allowed to do anything. For example, become dancers. Luckily, we live in a world now where any woman could become a dancer, or a bookkeeper, or maybe even a princess. They have these options, but in 1986, women had to be mudlarks and wet nurses were the only jobs I think women were allowed to have. And this changed everything. So let's go through the game. So, say for instance, you've chosen the actress character. Now, she doesn't have any particular perks that make this character a better choice than anyone else. As far as I know, again, I don't have the instructions. So, say I go along a career spotlight, and then I have these little discs. Like, for example, I get TV reporter. So I'm not just an actress, I'm a TV reporter. Very common jump between for ladies. But then suddenly, I can become a doctor. And that's a big departure. That's like 8 years of school and an internship and a residency, and it's just, okay, so now we're like a 45-year-old woman. Can't be a mother anymore, so take that out of there. That was a little sad, I'm sorry. A lot of Barbie games, there's an inherent sadness to them, and you gotta push through that before you finish. So then you can get a dancer chip, which is a lovely career for anyone. Sadly, women before 1986 were not allowed to do such a thing. Now, you're a dancer. But there was another dancer chip here, which means it probably is a dancer. So, again, we're kind of in a spiral now. We kind of hit that thing where we're like, we spent our life on our career, we didn't have any kids, we became a dancer, and I guess we just lost. Wait, astronaut. Boom! Someone sent us into space, apparently. I really wish I knew how to play this game because it's quite a mystery. But I think the theme is solid, and I want all the women out there to know that Barbie believes in you, and I believe in you, and together we can make it so you can do anything. And I guess this is a new segment on this show.